So thank you so very much for joining us today as we engage in this very important conversation regarding our English learners, the possibilities that dual language skills provide us, not only as individuals, but as a family and as a binational community. That's going to be the focus of our conversation today as we engage our distinguished panel here that are with us today. This is actually the second panel that we've had with regards to this particular topic. The first panel happened back in June, and it aligned with the Effective Board of Schools conference that we had at that time. It was a great discussion, and we just felt that it merited having more of us present to hear these very important perspectives and insights that we have. So as we engage in this panel, some of the questions that I'll pose are going to be general questions. And for the general questions, we don't necessarily need every single one of you to respond, okay? Otherwise, we'll be here all day, right? But there's also some particular questions that are going to be specifically addressed to some of you, specifically because of your background. Okay? So just a little heads up in terms of how we're going to go about this. So first of all, before we engage our panel, I'd like to have you think about this title here that says EL landscape. It's EL and not Ed landscape. Although that could be very cool too, right? English learners, you know, we used to call them ELL, English language learners. But there's changing terminology. And so now we're calling our second language learners English learners, okay? This is a leadership luncheon, and the leadership luncheon is to recognize that all of us in this room and our colleagues that are out there in the classrooms are leaders, because leadership is not about a title, it's not about a position, it really is about the difference that you make in the life that you live, how you impact fellow community members. And today we're talking about the impact that we're making with our kids, specifically the kids that are learning English as a second language, the kids that come from low resources. We're talking about our binational community. And so it's going to take our combined leadership to address this. Because it's about el paso al futuro con dos idiomas. Empezando con dos idiomas, pero preferiblemente tres o más, right? Because it's about multiliteracy. We'll start with biliteracy. We'll start with the concept of dual language. But ultimately, we want to encourage everybody to become multilingual. So, and let me see if the clicker here works, and I guess not. And as we think about our expertise here that is combined in the panel that we have, and the fact that we have a technological difficulty here just reminds me that I'd better make sure that your mics are on. Here we go. Thank you, Dr. Galaviz. Always exemplifying servant leadership. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Because that's really what all of us strive to do as we work with our kids. So, let's go to the next slide. I want to recognize the fact that we have several different partners in the making here that are present today to support us in this effort, to support the dialogue, to listen, to learn, but then also to go out and spread the word in terms of the challenges as well as the possibilities. We have representatives here from, and I'm going to try to read some of these particular representatives. So as I read your name, if you would please just quickly stand and be recognized. From Cree, we have Amy O'Rourke. From the El Paso Community Foundation, we have Stephanie Otero. From the American Consulate in Ciudad Juárez, we have Brian Strait and Juan Pablo Santana. They didn't make it, that's okay. They're here in spirit. From the Borderplex Alliance, Natalie Littlefield. From United Way, we have Elisa Morales and Enrique Garcia. From the Social Justice Forum, Dr. Domingo Martinez. We also have state leadership representing us across the state of Texas, but especially from our community. We have Georgina Perez, State Board of Education member. But I'd also like to recognize some of our staff that have been working on the SLAR standards. Actually, they wrote the standards. Marianne Sotelo and Lucia Palomino. Would you please also stand and be recognized? We have Senator Rodriguez. And I believe some of your staff as well, Cito Negron and Samantha Romero. And State Representative Mary Gonzalez, I believe Joshua Carter is here. That's okay, they're here in spirit as well. Okay? So as we think about the people that are here, first of all, let's give them another round of applause, because this is a great event. Dr. Elena Izquierdo was hoping to be here with us today to represent UTEP, but she fell ill with bronchitis. And of course, in this line of work, we need our voice, right? In fact, our voice is very important and key. So as we think about what we're doing here today, I want you to, for a minute, reflect, think back. Remember those dichos that your mom used to tell you? Because I saw a lot of you raise your hands and saying that you're bilingual. So I'm going to make the assumption that a lot of you in this room grew up with Spanish as your first language. I remember one time my mom said, "Dime con quién andas y te iré." Yes. Another one was, "No hay mal que amor de lejos." You almost fell into that one. But growing up in a household where Spanish was the language that my parents spoke, in a time in which speaking Spanish was not allowed in school, was kind of tough. It was only because of my parents' insistence that I speak Spanish at home that I am today bilingual. Think about that. Think about the fact that, because I hear some teachers sometimes say, well, they only speak Spanish at home. They're speaking about my family. They're speaking about my brothers and sisters who grew up and are today bilingual, bicultural, and their college degree. What are the possibilities? Look at everybody here today that came from a similar background. And look at what you're doing today to make an impact on kids. So I want to start off with a panel with a question. What are the benefits of bilingualism for the individual, for the family, and for our community? Whoever wants to go first.
As a second language learner myself, and you can tell by my accent, it is the best of the two worlds. And I was reading, trying to prepare myself for this presentation, and one of the things that caught my eye is all those individuals that did not have this opportunity to be in a dual language program, who experienced not having to be embarrassed of speaking Spanish. And I remember if he's here, he told us a story about being punished because he was speaking Spanish, I believe, the first day of school, Mariana. I will never forget that story. Is it true? And then I'm thinking, so how can they communicate with their abuelitos? How can they communicate with the rest of the family? How can they communicate with a family that probably they have in Mexico or in other countries? So I believe that this, in particular dual language, is giving you the best of the two worlds. I cannot imagine anything else for my son.
Yes.
And if you want it for your own children, you should want it for all the kids.
I take it more of the social justice. And being a migrant from a family growing up in Wisconsin, where your identity was taken from you, and so was your language. So to me, I always had that chip on my shoulder of the dominant culture always taking you. So this is about social justice. This is about, I mean, it's the same plight as the African American that we have taken on. That you have a country, again, and I'm going to say it, that's more into building a wall and kicking us out, but yet they want to keep our language. So it's, what do you want? And I think that's why Senator Rodriguez and our representatives fight for us very hard up there in Austin and Washington. But for me, it's more about identity of who I am than the language. Because again, all that was stripped from my family now. And so,
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your insights there. And that's one of the reasons why I started with the dichos. It's because I really wanted us to think about the why. Why is it that we want our kids to honor and value their native language? And a lot of it has to do with the identity. It's about social justice, but it also has to do with los cuentos de la abuelita. You know, right now my mom has grandkids who don't speak Spanish. And they're missing out on some really beautiful stories. And no matter how well I tell my mom's stories, they don't sound as well. You know, they lose a little bit of that spice. But you know, I look around in terms of the professionals that are that didn't lose their language for whatever reason they were able to maintain. And you know, it wasn't easy because some of us did lose our language. I have friends who were stripped of their language, not through their fault, but because of systemic issues of social injustice, right? And so as we continue to reflect on biliteracy and so forth, right now, my mom would be so mad at me. Let me tell you why. Mijo, se te olvidó presentar a los presenters. She would be all over my case like, así no te crié, right? So please pardon me for not introducing you. I was a little bit nervous here. This is the first time I do moderating, by the way. But in our midst, we have here Dr. Barbara Kennedy. She's the Director of English Learner Support at the Texas Education Agency. She's a Texas educator with over 30 years of experience in teaching in multilingual classrooms, preschool through adult. She's trilingual, Spanish, English, and German. Dr. Kennedy is passionate about the importance of providing English learners in Texas the opportunity to develop their primary language to a high degree while also becoming strong communicators in oral and written English. She's one of the authors of the Guiding Principles for Dual Language Education, and she's the former director of Dual Language Bilingual at the Center for Applied Linguistics in Washington, D.C. Let's welcome Dr. Kennedy. Dr. Serrata, William Serrata, was named the president of the El Paso County Community College District effective August 1st, 2012. Under Dr. Serrata's leadership, the Aspen Institute announced that El Paso Community College was named one of 10 nationwide finalists for the Aspen Prize for Community College Excellence, which recognizes a college's impact on student success in fall 2014. EPCC was selected from a pool of nearly 1,200 community colleges and is one of only 2 Texas institutions to be selected as finalists for the distinguished achievement. Let's welcome Dr. Serrata. Dr. Pedro Galaviz, who you saw giving us bottles of water, okay? His servant leadership is exemplified in many ways. He was appointed the Canutillo ISD Superintendent of Schools by the Board of Trustees in 2013. He comes to Canutillo from the Austin area, where he oversaw all secondary campuses in Round Rock ISD. 12 of the 13 campuses he oversaw were high-performing. He has been a teacher and a campus principal at the elementary and high school levels. Let's welcome Dr. Galaviz. To his right, Licenciada Adriana Landaverde, Cónsul para Asuntos Comunitarios del Consulado General de México en El Paso. Su última adscripción fue en la Ciudad de México en las oficinas de la Dirección General de Protocolo de la Secretaría de Relaciones Exteriores, en donde se desempeñó como subdirectora de acreditación e inmunidades, haciéndose cargo de la seguridad nacional de las embajadas de todo el mundo en México, especialmente de los consulados de los Estados Unidos de América y en el norte de México. En agosto de 2016 se incorporó a las filas del Consulado General de México en El Paso, en donde se empeña como cónsul para asuntos comunitarios. Let's give her a welcome. And squeezed in between all these people, we have Diana Lara, a former dual language learner student at El Paso ISD. Yeah, right? Come on, let's look at that. There you go. Diana Lara was born and raised in El Paso, Texas, one of the largest binational borders in the United States. She began her primary education at Mesita Elementary, home of the Mundos Unidos Connecting Worlds Dual Language Magnet program. Currently, she's studying Spanish, translation, and interpreting at the University of Texas Rio Grande Valley in Brownsville. This semester, she had the opportunity to participate in an internship at the Translation and Interpreting Office at University of Texas Rio Grande Valley. She was awarded a scholarship from the Texas Associated Judiciary Interpreters and Translators. This scholarship can be applied to and is only awarded to the best students in the translation and interpreting program. She hopes to graduate next fall with a 4.0 GPA. Let's give her a round of applause. And here we have Dr. Cecilia Valdez Gutiérrez, doctora en Ciencias Económicas con especialidad en Recursos Humanos de la Universidad de La Habana, Cuba. Ella cuenta con una maestría en Desarrollo Organizacional y otra en Educación No Formal y de Adultos de la Universidad de Monterrey. Por 31 años se ha desempeñado como directiva en el Tecnológico de Monterrey, Campus Ciudad Juárez, en áreas como Recursos Humanos, desarrollo académico, talento y cultura, y actualmente está a cargo de la dirección académica y de apoyo a la visión. Let's give her a round of applause. And last but not least, because she was the first to speak, we have Sandra Spivey. Sandra Spivey is currently the principal at Polk Elementary. When I asked her for her bio, she said, you know what, just introduce me as a classroom teacher who became a principal. And so let's give her a round of applause.
I also said do not mention how many years because
Exactly. Es quinceañera. What are the strengths? I think we all know here in this room, but I think we need to verbalize it. What are the strengths of our borderland community in its potential to develop multilingual leaders and create a multilingual workforce?
what I see in our region is that we have a lot of industries that have a lot of main offices around the world. So that is strange about our region because they are interested in learn both or 3 languages. They need instructor, teachers in Chinese, in German, in Italian, French, Spanish, English. So that's a strength for us.
It is a strength. And it's important to recognize that, people do look to El Paso. My brother Ismael, I've told the story, has worked around the world. And he never left El Paso. He would commute from El Paso to Milwaukee, okay, every week. But sometimes he'd go to Tokyo, sometimes to Slovakia, and so forth. And one of the things that he told me was, I'm not alone. Sometimes I get on that flight and there's other people from El Paso traveling to other places, commuting, right? Because we love our borderland community, right? So that's one of the things. What other strengths do you see?
Actually, I think here, our borderland community, El Paso, all the districts here in El Paso, Texas, we have, and people can see it as a challenge, a demand for bilingual education because we have so many ELs, children who don't speak the language, so we have the demand. So that's a problem. We can see it as a problem, or we can see it as an opportunity to find solutions, and then we can become like I think we have the models for the other areas. I think we have the strength that we have a lot of people, a lot of teachers who are bilingual themselves. We have a lot of people because they live that experience of being, stripped from their language, that they don't want that to happen. They have developed that philosophy and that great belief that we can make a difference. So that can be seen as a strength because I know that in other communities in the country, they are bringing teachers. They are bringing teachers from Mexico or from South America to work there because they don't have it. We do have it. So this is an excellent opportunity to find the solutions and the best model to be a model for bilingual education.
Yeah, I think Principal Spivey is spot on. What you see is the talent that is here, to be able to cultivate that talent to lead the nation in bilingual education. Business is always ahead of this, and I'll travel and I'll land in places like Raleigh, North Carolina, and I hear the announcements in English, and then I hear the announcements in Spanish in North Carolina. This is not a Texas Southwest, this is a national and now international movement. And as opposed to seeing it as a challenge, as you said, Principal, it is really a strength for us to be able to cultivate the talent that we have here. And we see it in many of our leaders. We see it in the Senator. We see it in Congressman O'Rourke, who just challenged a sitting senator to debates not only in English but in Spanish. And I've seen him with Jorge Ramos, who did just such an incredible job of representing our community and really showing the community and the nation and now the world what is available to folks right here in El Paso. The border should be at the forefront of this, as opposed to seeing it as a challenge or it is really a strength. And it's a strength that I'm sad that growing up on the border at a time when you said the story, Principal, it was the same for me. We were not allowed to speak Spanish. We were punished for speaking Spanish.
Yes.
I still worked with a superintendent who was a retired superintendent at the college who would get upset because my staff was speaking Spanish. This was the mindset at that time in the early 70s where you needed to be monolingual and get the language right. And what happened is we have a generation who lost out.
Yes.
And now I have to make sure that my kids don't lose, that they have the strength of having 2 languages, being twice as strong as any other competitor, and hopefully moving forward with a 3rd language, whether it be coding, whether it be sign language, whether it be German. We just have an opportunity to lead the nation and the world in this particular area.
We do have an opportunity. And as we think about those opportunities as well as the challenges that come with it, we need to focus on those strengths. What is the human capital we have here in our binational community? What are the resources that we have in the alliances that we can create together to move forward with making sure that our kids don't lose out? The language that they grew up at home is not a deficit. It is a strength that we can cultivate, we can nurture, we can make that an additive approach, not a subtractive approach, right? But rather a way that we can add English on top of the Spanish that we already speak. And then having two languages, what doors does that open in terms of understanding and looking at things from a different point of view? Because research shows also that the bilingual brain makes a lot of other connections, helps us to see things with different perspectives. So it enhances the problem-solving skills that one comes to the table. Think about STEM. STEM offers an opportunity. Here in our borderland community, the work that we're seeing with, for example, UTEP graduating a lot of Latino engineers, for example, right? A lot of our kids that are dual language speakers should be in that program, should be science, technology, engineering, and so forth. Coding is another language. Are we teaching coding in our schools? So as we think about the way of how we can more intentionally create the atmosphere and the environment, the resources that our kids need, we also need to think about our parents. The parents that come with our kids, that want the best for the kids. At this point, Ms. Adriana Landaverde, in your role as a Consul de Asuntos Comunitarios, I know the work that has been done in other places like Indianapolis and the Dallas area. I would like for you to take a minute to share with the audience some of the great work that the Consulado does to support immigrant families from Mexico and other Latin American countries.
Sure. I will try to do my best in English. I'm not actually bilingual. I'm a Spanish speaker, and I'm trying to learn English. I got to try. One of the strengths I'm going to say first, the economical development here in the region. As a Mexican consulate, how we see it. We are bringing people from Mexico to do business to this area. So as soon as we grow here in El Paso, our people are going to come, learning English, but also teaching others to speak Spanish, because that's what they are going to need. So economic development here in El Paso has to grow more, so our kids don't go away from El Paso, instead come back to El Paso and do their best here. Okay. So one of the things that we do at the consulate, I'm the consul for community services. What we do, we go and see the community itself, the Mexican nationals here in El Paso. We are in charge, we are responsible for what happens to them in all the situations that they might live. We have two windows at the consulate. One of them is health services. We provide health services, of course, preventive services. We give everything for free, but people don't know. They don't know. The other thing that we do is financial education. We prepare them so they can have a better quality of life by having some savings. Do the best thing for their tax returns. Try to tell them why it's important to have an account in the bank. Try to tell them why it's important to pay taxes. Not to be just a part of the system, but to be part of the society. To pay because the roads they are using, that's what they are paying for. Try to tell them to respect the law because they have to do it. Because we already know that some of them, they already broke a law, coming in this country without papers, without documents. So we try to tell them, look, if you want to live here, you have to be part of the community. You have to be respectful to the law and of course to everybody that is around you. And the other one is our window that is in charge of educational orientation. And this is what I call to all of you. Because we give invitations to all the districts to come and cooperate with the consulate so we can go together with the Mexican community itself. We go directly to the colonies, we go to Canutillo, we go to Socorro, we go to every school that we can try and go there. Because we have some programs that we work. Some books that are for free for the children that are in Spanish, and they are geography, math, Spanish, social science, and nobody asks for the books. So we also have a contest, which is called, an art contest, and we tell them, you can teach the kids about Mexico through art. It's a contest that is once a year, And we tell them, bring your pictures to the consulate, we send them to Mexico, and we get a winner. Actually, last year we got a winner here at El Paso, and she won an iPad, and she also got a huge picture of the Mariposa Monarca. That was the main idea of the contest. But this year, nobody has answered to all our invitations. And now we have our National Education Week. And we want all the districts to come with us and to be part of it, to teach the parents, to teach the students what STEAM means, what new tech means, because a lot of the parents, they don't even know what their children are going to. They go to the closest school because they don't know anything else. They don't even know that the kids can study some of the classes for college when they're in high school. But this is part of the education for the parents. What are we doing? At the consulate, we try to do all this radio and TV and tell them, come to the consulate. We are going to try to solve your problems about education. And then we call you guys and say, you know what, this is a family that is just coming from Mexico, not Juarez. Mexico is not just Juarez, okay? We have a lot of states. And we have a lot of people that come from all the states. So we try to call you and say, you know what, this family is just coming from Colima, Oaxaca, and they don't even know what school to go to. Can you help me out? Okay, but what we need is an answer from all the districts, because not everyone is interested in collaborating with us. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying that we are a key. We are the government, even though a lot of people say, oh, the Mexican government, we know how they are. We are not a political party. We are the ones that are trying to do something for the Mexican community abroad. We are, let's say, different, okay? So the people trust us. The people rely to us when they have a problem. What we want to do is just prevent that problem. Don't go into the hole. We are going to tell you how to jump, okay? So if you have a question, you need something for educational situation, any type of problem, just come to the consulate. We have the TV windows that work every day from 9 to 4 o'clock to 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And we try to do our best to educate. We also do that.
So education, definitely a great resource for you to explore. When I was working in other parts of the country, I always saw various communities, rural communities, urban communities, big city communities, that were using the Mexican consulate to get those free books. I've seen those free books, and they're really good. You know, they may not match, you know, the TEKs, right? But they can certainly, you can certainly use them as very good supplementary material to help the Spanish reader make connections to the content.
I would like to say, and you're absolutely right. When I was in the classroom, and I don't know if you remember, Diana was my student, by the way.
All right.
I was not her teacher, but I was, at that time, I was the coordinator of the dual language program, and she's amazing. We asked for the books como material suplementario, porque la riqueza, no sé si todos sepan, que en México los libros son gratis. Todos los niños reciben sus libros de texto gratis y son de buena calidad. Como material suplementario, los poemas, la historia de los aztecas, la historia de los volcanes, son increíbles, son poéticas esas historias. Y yo se las leía a los niños, yo enseñaba quinto año. Ese material es maravilloso y creo que todos los niños que tienen ascendencia mexicana tienen acceso a los libros, ¿correcto?
Todo el que lo solicite, no solamente a los mexicanos. Si a mí me llega una estadounidense, una maestra, una mamá que quiere enseñar el libro español, nosotros proporcionamos los libros de manera gratuita, vienen por colecciones, desde el primer año hasta el 6º grado. ¿Qué sucede en los libros de enseñanza de México? Que los chicos del 8º y 7º están leyendo 5º y 6º de nuestros libros. O sea, están abajo. Entonces, lo que nosotros tratamos de hacer es incentivar también a los padres para que se lleven los libros y les enseñen a los chicos lo que todos los días en México está viendo a través de sus libros. No nada más los libros, el dibujo infantil está en México. Tenemos muchísimos programas. El día de hoy, en el consulado, estuvo la Universidad de Nuevo México la Universidad del Paso, la Universidad del Tec de Monterrey, dando pláticas acerca de becas, dando pláticas acerca de las carreras que tienen, acerca de la inscripción, eso en el consulado. La gente nos escucha, la gente cree en nosotros, pero necesitamos más difusión. Nuestro problema, our challenge, es la difusión, que la gente conozca de lo que estamos hablando. Y yo invito a las escuelas, yo invito a todos los distritos escolares, que nosotros somos una plataforma. Ahí tienes el espacio del consulado, ven, úsalo, porque para eso está. Pero si no lo usan, al rato vienen y dicen, el consulado no hace nada. No, yo mando invitación, yo les hablo por teléfono, pregúntame, aquí está. Y si no vienen es porque en realidad, ya sé, no hay tiempo, no hay dinero, no hay esfuerzo, pero la verdad es que sí se puede hacer muchas cosas. Y estamos ahí para que ustedes vengan. No solo lo cultural, no solo los documentos que se proporcionan, somos una variedad de cosas muy diferentes. La muerte de una persona mexicana que muere, ¿a dónde va? Al cielo, ¿no? Al infierno. No, pero ¿qué sucede? El cuerpo. La gente dice, ¿a dónde lo mando? Pues a México quiero mandarlo. ¿Con quién van? Con el consulado. Nosotros somos el enlace perfecto. Gracias. Entre México, El Paso y todos Estados Unidos y todo el resto del mundo. Y si nos aprovechan, ahí estamos. O sea, ustedes, si vienen y me preguntan, nosotros hacemos, porque pareciera que no, pero sí hacemos muchas cosas. Y pregúntenle aquí a nuestra amiga Tec de Monterrey.
There's a great resource that we certainly hope that you will take advantage of in order to enrich the experiences of our youth who are still learning English as a second language. You utilize those Spanish resources so that they can continue to grow in their own language.
So, I want to acknowledge creating Border Plus, because that's also a resource that we have used in Canutillo. Not only are two great higher institutions, but I mean they're constantly challenging us of getting better and funding us. Because by funding we have new research that Cecilia, our awesome director, is bringing in Thomas and Quire, Gomez. They don't have another brother, do they? But I really want to acknowledge creating Border Plus, because they're also at the table.
Exactly.
So a great resource is the private sector that we have, our businesses that are supportive of what we're trying to do.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that recognition, and that is exactly why we asked you all to be here, because we want to expand Region 19 in terms of reaching out to our fellow community members so we can increase the impact that we make with our students and with our families. I want to, for a minute now, because you've been very quiet, Diana, I want you to think back to your experiences growing up or going to school in a dual language setting. Could you please tell us a little bit about that experience, but also how did that prepare you for college? Go ahead.
So I always tell this story. I grew up learning, my first language was Spanish. I remember my mom used to take me to Mission Hills Park. I hated it because I didn't know English. So the kids at the park would make fun of me and they wouldn't let me play with them. I remember telling my mom, like, I want to learn English. And she was like, no te preocupes, pronto aprenderás. So I held on to that. And I started the dual language program in pre-K at Mesita, and I learned English in no time. And I loved it. And then I went to Wicks Middle School, and I would say that those were my most formative years as a dual language student, because that's when I started learning Spanish grammar. Spanish grammar is hard. And yeah, and that's how my passion for Spanish language sparked. And that's when I knew that I was going to go into linguistics. And I went to El Paso High, and I feel like that's when I knew that I had been called to do something with my dual language experience. I had the opportunity of being in a GT independent study class, and I researched the long-term impacts of dual language. And the purpose of the study, I did it in conjunction with, in collaboration with a professor from the Northeastern Illinois University. And the purpose of the study was to study the long-term impacts of dual language as well as the success of students throughout the test of time. And it was awesome because I got to reach out to students that had graduated, that had moved on from dual language to college or to whatever it was that they were doing. It was awesome to hear how the dual language program had helped them and had impacted their life and had allowed them to get to where they were. And so because of that, I presented at the 22nd Annual Beams Conference. I presented my findings there, and I also presented my project there, and that's how I met Ms. Elisa. And she reached out to me to conduct parent meetings to advocate for the spread of dual language in high-poverty areas of El Paso. And I'm never going to forget that experience because I remember that there was a mom there, and she was sharing her struggles, coming from Juarez to here, and she started crying. And I remember she said that all she wanted, she's like, all I want is for my daughter to be able to have the same abilities as you, to be able to speak, to write, and think in a different language. And I was like, wow, I didn't realize how, or I did realize, but it was then that I was like, wow, not everyone has this. Not everyone has the opportunity of being able to think, to read and write in two languages, and it opens up so many doors. After I graduated from high school, or in the process of applying to scholarships, I have not paid a single cent out of my pocket for college, and that is because I have received scholarships, a lot of scholarships, and in all of my scholarship essays, I have mentioned the fact that I am a dual language student, and the fact that I was in a dual language program, and I can almost guarantee that it was because of that I have received all these scholarships. I couldn't have chosen a better career, to apply my dual language skills. I am studying Spanish translation and interpreting, and I was so amazed. I knew something about translating and interpreting because you see it a lot in the education field. I mean, all of you work in schools or are exposed to that. Parents sometimes don't understand English, and who has to translate? Who has to interpret it? We do. The students do. And it's hard because when you're not prepared, or it all falls on the students, right? Sometimes we have to interpret for our parents, and sometimes our parents feel like they lose authority, right? Because we're exposed to confidential information, and it's a lot of responsibility for a student to carry. And we are one of the few countries in the world that does not legally enforce the need for accurate translations and qualified interpreters. Think about that. We are such a great country, yet we don't legally enforce that. And that is a right that we are legally entitled to. It's wrong for people to ask you that you have to bring your own interpreter or your own translator wherever you're going, whether it be to a hospital or whether it be to if you're going to a court. You're entitled to that, and I feel like it's super awesome that I was able to take that with me. And I live in Brownsville, Texas, which is also a border city, so I get to see the best of both worlds in that. Where it wasn't a culture shock when I started living there, but I can see the need, and it's hard because the initiative over there to start dual language programs is called the B3 Institute, and they're struggling right now because people don't want dual language programs in the Valley, and it's so hard for me to see that because I come from that. Look at everything that I've been able to accomplish is because I am a dual language student. It's a huge part of my self-identity. And to see that they're struggling, and I see all the benefits that they're missing out on, is really, really hard because I come from a place where we advocate for that, and you don't. And if anything, I feel like in the Valley, there's a huge need for that.
Well, thank you so much. Appreciate your insights. So I sense that we have a legislator in the making here, right? Your voice will be so key, not only for the state of Texas, but across the country. So thank you for the work that you're doing and that you're going to do in the future to that end. I want to take a minute to recognize Diana's mom is here. Ms. Lara, would you please stand? I'm sure you're very proud of Diana. So as we continue, now let's talk a little bit about dual language programs. And this question that I have here is specifically to Dr. Kennedy, Sandra Spivey, and Dr. Galaviz. What do you consider keys to a successful implementation of a dual language program?
Can I go first?
Sure. Go ahead.
You go, Mr. Superintendent.
Quality principals
Yes.
and quality teachers. And because they're the ones that are going to follow the research. My job is to bring in the resources. So she comes in the room and says, hey Galaviz, this isn't working. All right, what works? My job is to get her the tools and those teachers so we can serve the student. So quality principals, quality teachers. And I won't tell Mr. Cabrera you gave me your resume.
Ms. Spivey, would you like to add to that?
I'm going to add to that because and thank you for saying that about the principles. But there's much more to that, and I think somebody mentioned it. I think we have to have all the factors together, and I'm going to include, of course, the teachers, but who is going to train the teachers? We need central office, the facilitators, and the idea, and very, very high quality training. But we also have to inform the parents. Parents have to know what is good for their children. They have a choice. They can, now in our district is open enrollment, so they can go, if they want to do a language program that is a quality, they can apply to that. They don't have to just go to the school that is close to them. They have to, yes, English is important, but we tell them they are going to learn English. Being in a dual language program doesn't mean that they're not going to learn English. Of course they're going to learn. We need to inform parents. Also, we need to inform a lot of people that maybe they did not have the opportunity like us of experience like Diana. They need to learn the other language, and they don't understand. And we cannot blame them because they come from another background. We have principals who are from other cities in our country, and they see, oh, okay, they need to be in dual language because we need those scores. Well, it's not about that. It's much more than that. And they don't understand. So we need to, high quality training, I will start by that. But also inform the parents, because sometimes, no, they're not learning English fast enough. I'm gonna put them in English only. And we try to tell them that's not the way it is. But sometimes they see the other people and probably the ones that were not allowed to speak Spanish, and oh, look at me, they threw me in the English only and I succeeded. So they hear those things. So there's a lot, television, and now particularly with our new administration, that what are we saying? They don't want us here. Maybe we should not be speaking Spanish. So there's a lot of that, and I would say we cannot have an effective program without all the stakeholders informed and knowledgeable and I guess proactive.
Thank you so much. Dr. Kennedy?
Well, they said everything. I would definitely agree with everything that was stated about leadership being informed, teachers being well trained, and also families and community members understanding the program. I guess what I would add is I think fidelity of program implementation, because a lot of times there's a lot of momentum at the beginning and excitement around implementing dual language education. But I'm going to say it is a great program and it has great results, but we do have to put effort into implementing it appropriately and effectively in alignment with research. Sometimes people feel that it's just teaching in 2 languages. I've literally heard that. We'll start in August. All we need to do is teach half the time in Spanish and the rest will take care of itself. This is not It's a little more complicated than that. So I think, yeah, implementation of the program, really deeply understanding how and why it works, and then seeing how the program components fit together to reach the goals that are intended.
Thank you so much. So I think we can safely say that we've heard the benefits of bilingualism. We know what research says. There's some best practices that can take place and take all of us to the next level. So I guess the question now becomes, what's stopping us? You know, here as an international borderland community, what are the challenges? But also, what are the opportunities? What are we perhaps needing to address to be that leader? The El Paso, Ciudad Juarez, and Las Cruces Tri-City area, how can we take this conversation to the next level with action?
You know, I think coming from the outside, from Wisconsin, from Dallas, from Round Rock, I always wondered why, you know, work with Juarez. I always wondered why we don't go over there and look at their systems when it comes to bilingualism or literacy, excuse me. So I think that's one of the, is really bringing in Mexico into the conversation of what is biliteracy and what resources are you using. When I first became superintendent, I wanted to burn the STAR test in public.
Right.
But my attorney said over, Mrs. Laura, told me it was a felony. I don't think my wife, even though Canutillo is orange, I don't look good in orange. So I think that's an opportunity that really is bringing Juarez an educational value of what Mexico can bring. Because again, that's where the motherland. Two, I think is our, it's putting a new system, trying to put a new system on an old system called public schools, in which the state does not really test for biliteracy of you know, because right now we're EOCs. EOCs are English. So, and I don't know the difference between literature, an EOC English 1 and an EOC Spanish 1. To me, literature is literature. So I think that's an opportunity for the state to go ahead.
Right now, we're developing the dual language assessments for not only for K-12, so that we can look at the work on our transcripts, but also so that we can actually be a dual language distinction for a pathway to post-secondary.
Thank you so much.
That's wonderful.
Yes, it is wonderful news. And since you mentioned, let's bring Juarez into the conversation. I'm going to talk, turn here to Dr. Cecilia. I want you to perhaps share a little bit about, you know, some of us may still hesitate in going to Juarez, right? How do we revive that collaboration, that spirit that we had? And what opportunities do we have? Because I hear through the grapevine that there's a growing number of English-speaking kids that are now living in Juarez, that the teachers there are struggling with meeting their cognitive, linguistic, and affective needs. Can you speak a little bit about?
Okay. Locally in our school, we have the middle school, high school, and the university. So in the middle school, we have a bilingual program and multicultural program. So the kids have all the subjects in English in the middle school, and the Spanish class is in Spanish. And at high school, we have a multicultural program and a bilingual program. The multicultural program, they have English, all the subjects in English, some French, some in German, and a Chinese program. Includes travel to China to live the culture and everything like that. In the bilingual, they have all the subjects in English. In the university, they are already bilingual. But in the whole Juarez, there's a lot of interest to graduate the students in both language, because we know the job opportunities over there are great for bilingual. We have a lot of executive directors from Ciudad Juárez that are working around the world, representing great companies and regions. There's a lot of great stories.
Yes.
That's a great stories. And I think we have to unite efforts. We have to make some exchange between our techniques, our teachers.
Can I share, I would like to read something because there were some questions that you posed
Sure.
about college and all that. And I want you to know that the only reason that I'm here is because Elisa really wanted my son to be here. My son was with Diana in those presentations, but he's in Austin. And he couldn't come, but I asked him, so, and this is what he replied
All right,
about
thank you.
that. Y me lo escribió en español. Dice, los beneficios de la frontera, la habilidad de tener conexiones con México, que en realidad es el país más importante en relaciones económicas de nuestro país. Y luego da un ejemplo. Él tuvo la oportunidad de hacer un internado en el Carroll Collaborative. No sé si ustedes estén familiarizados con eso. Es un edificio muy bonito que está ahí por la Reynolds, en la salida para el Thomason. Bueno, no, para el UNC. Carroll Collaborative. Se identifica como el único centro de investigación biomédica en el oeste de Texas, sureste de Nuevo México y norte de México. Esto es porque los creadores de este centro saben que para poder hacer investigaciones innovativas y tener descubrimientos en los campos de medicina y tecnología, hay que aprovecharnos de la tecnología, los recursos y el brain power que hay en México. Nunca vamos a tener avances formativos si nos aislamos. Más bien tenemos que colaborar y compartir ideas. Esta mentalidad global es la mentalidad de nuestro mundo moderno y tan conectado.
Wow.
Yo quisiera complementar porque mi hijo trabaja como directora en el MCA y él estudió en Ciudad Juárez y en Chihuahua la carrera de ingeniero biomédico. Y estuvo en educación bilingüe desde la primaria, secundaria, preparatoria, toda la cursó en Ciudad Juárez. Y yo creo que es un ejemplo de la calidad de la enseñanza de los dos idiomas en la región.
Sí.
Yo creo que ya no hay el límite de que seas de un lugar o tu ciudadanía, sino en realidad es tus habilidades y tus competencias las que hoy en día valen para tener un mejor trabajo.
I would like to add something to what Dr. Galaviz has said, to bring Mexico to El Paso, to the system. And I think you are doing a very good job. Last month, I think I was here for a workshop about the Mexican system. And so I wasn't disagreeing with so many things because I think we have to have a lot of upgrade information about what Mexico is doing about education. A lot of things called security. You know, you don't go to Juarez because it's unsecure. But that's many years ago. Things have changed. Our schools are different. So we have to know something from the first hand. The first hand right now is the consulate. I don't want to be like the important person for the Mexican right here. But we are very important. Economical, political, talking, educational, and everything is about us. We are trying to do our best to bring Mexico to the system. And so just take advantage of us. There is one thing I wanted to say about CIELE, certification. Why don't we certify our kids in Spanish? You ask for TOEFL? Hey, we are asking for CIELE. Do you know what that is? It's a certification for Spanish speakers. If you want to go into school in Mexico, we are going to start asking for some CIELE. So CIELE, and so we send the invitation to all the districts to become the partner of CIELE, so you can have the certified kids in Spanish. If I don't write an answer again. So,
All right, so spread the word.
We are working with associations in Mexico that are willing to come to El Paso to talk about the schools in Mexico, but not just the schools that are in Juarez, all Mexico. And they're willing to come to you and say, you know what, you're a student. They want to hear about what Mexico has to offer. Some of them, they have to return to Mexico because of immigration situation. So where are we going to send them? send them to the consulate. But you have to know also what schools are available, how they can change the transcripts from from English to Spanish, and if they are going to be able to enter to a school in Mexico, they are able to go. They get scholarships, they get it in Mexico, and they get it here. Through the consulate, we have scholarships that we give away to all Mexican nationals, and we give it like, EPCC has some plazas comunitarias. They are working with the Mexican community, and I really appreciate all the help that you have done with us. Right now, we are in partnership with the Ventanilla de Orientación Educativa with EPCC. They are our partners in this effort to go to the community and educate them and try to tell them, we are here because we know that you guys are going to be with us to teach the people how to do it when they get to education situations.
All right, thank you so much. We have about 15 minutes left. And I have other questions here, but I also wanted to give the audience an opportunity to ask a question of the panel if you have a question. If not, okay, yes, sir. Senator Rodriguez.
Well, I don't have so much as a question as much as a comment, if I'm allowed to do that.
Please.
I haven't heard anybody mention more state investment in education, more resources. If we talk about dual language and bilingual education, we know that we have a shortage of bilingual certified teachers. We know we have a need for more resources. The funding formula for English language learners dates back to 1984. And we've had a tremendous increase in students since that time. Yet the state of Texas, in my view, is not investing in our kids, the kids that the former state demographer Steve Murdoch has said are the future labor force, and now, even now, I would say, of Texas and the whole country. So, yes, I think the factors that were pointed out, like Dr. Galaviz said, you know, teachers, principals, we mentioned other factors. The training, I think, is important. But you see, all of that requires resources. And so unless we as communities insist that the state do better, and I'm going to say by our Latino kids, then we are going to have limited access to these programs, limited resources, and it's going to hold back what has very clearly been described as the importance of dual language, multilingualism, and what that means for the global economy. And so this is a fight that we've had for years, as you all know, and I know especially you all as educators, and especially border educators, as unless we change that mindset in Austin, well, that is, we already invest too much in education. Unless we change that and change the formulas to bring them up to date, then we are going to continue being challenged in developing these wonderful programs that we're talking about here. That was my observation.
Thank you so very much. Definitely the resources that we need. We all know that teaching a student whose first language is not English takes more resources. And so it is important to make our voice known, make our voice heard in terms of we need more resources to teach our students, especially in a borderland community. Dr. Martinez, you have a question or comment?
Thank you. I want to thank all the panelists for their wonderful comments. Bilingualism is something that many of us have experienced, and it's extremely important to our area, but also to our country. What I want to emphasize is that one of the problems, one of the challenges is the image that Mexico has in the United States. Every day we're bombarded with all kinds of negative images on the media because of the violence, because of undocumented migration, the drug trafficking, all that stuff, I think has a great impact on the perception of Mexico. And on the perception, I'm particularly concerned about the perception of our children in the schools. they grow up with a defensive attitude and a sense of inferiority, a sense that the homeland is a failed country, that the homeland has a lot of corruption, that it has incompetent governments, that it has a backward economy, that the Mexicanos can't do as well as the Norteamericanos. Now, all those things need to be addressed, I think, to really make these kinds of programs successful. I've been a professor at UTEP and also at the University of Arizona. I just retired, and I've been writing books about the borderlands, about Hispanics, and about Mexico. And I'm very interested in, I'm from El Paso. I grew up in Ciudad Juarez and El Paso. I'm very interested in working with teachers, educators here, in addressing this problem and finding ways of presenting Mexico in a positive way to our children. Mexico has great history, has a wonderful culture, has a lot of great things, but all those things are just sort of thrown aside because of the tremendous negative publicity that Mexico receives in the United States. I'm interested in explaining things about why Mexico has developed the way that it has, explaining the relationship between Mexico and the United States, and addressing all these misconceptions that exist in the United States. Recently, I created a video with the help of Victor Salas, who's a videographer, and the title of the video, which is only 13 minutes long, is How the United States and Geography Shaped the Destiny of Mexico. That gives you a different view of how Mexico developed economically and the handicaps that Mexico has faced throughout its history. A different view of the view that people have in the United States about Mexico doing all kinds of things wrong, the government having all these terrible policies, etc., etc. There are very important things that are not understood. And I'm interested in taking stuff that I've written in books, and I understand that many people don't read books, and so therefore, I've been writing booklets also. Algo más cortito, no? But I understand that people aren't that excited about booklets either. So now I'm going to videos, okay? And I would encourage you to look up this video, and you can just get it on Google and put in How the United States and Geography Shaped the Destiny of Mexico. So after this meeting, I would be interested in talking to anybody who is interested in dealing with these issues. And I'm very willing, now that I'm retired, I have lots of time.
Thank you so
very
much.
interested in working with you.
Just a comment that maybe we need to think about. You know, when we work with second language learners in Chapter 89, it clearly says, meeting their cognitive, linguistic, and affective needs. That's basically what you're talking about, Dr. Martinez, in terms of the affective needs. There's an opportunity there through the ethnic course studies now that Texas is going to engage in for us to help our students to really understand their identity, to understand where they've been, where they are, and where we want them to go in the future. Yes?
I just would like to add one thing to that. When we were looking at Chapter 89 for the revisions and really trying to infuse as much as we could, we were looking also at Statute 29 and thinking about the national research on dual language education. It was very difficult in Statute 29 and in Rule 89 to find spaces where we could put cross-cultural competence, all of these things that were addressed and that we know are so important. And in fact, if you're familiar with dual language education, really there are 3 goals for dual language education. The first is for the students to emerge fully bilingual and biliterate. The second one is that they achieve at high levels academically in 2 languages. And the third is that they develop, it has different, people call it different things. It could be called cross-cultural competence or any other, there's sort of some discussion about what that third pillar is, but it's basically a culture pillar. And really, as we looked at 29 and 89 and the proposed revisions, the only place we could really find it at all was in exactly what you just stated, meeting the affective needs of the students, which is pretty weak, actually, in terms of, there's not a lot of teeth there, but that was our open door, and that's where that fits. And I just wanted to make sure I stated that, because a lot of what we talked about this morning didn't include a lot about what we call the third pillar, cross-cultural competence. And the third pillar is also known to be called the neglected pillar, with all of the other competing interests and accountability systems. There is no accountability system for equity and advocacy, unfortunately. In my world, that would be wonderful to have that as the first pillar, and also to be part of our accountability system. Short of that, though, I just wanted to make sure I let you all know that is a huge part of the work we're doing at the TEA, English Learner Support. And we're finding a lot of different ways to do it, which would also include the inclusion of primary language supports for students regardless of which program model they're in, the language that we infuse in terms of meeting the needs of English learners, and ensuring that we are doing that before we serve native English speakers or English fluent students through dual language or other bilingual programs, etc. So I just wanted to kind of throw that in.
Thank you so much. So we have an opportunity. We have an opportunity here as a community. Region 19 has recognized that this opportunity exists. And that's why Region 19 wanted to invite you to this panel to hear this conversation, but also to think about the possibilities that we have within our reach. We have an idea that we are proposing as a service center to have what we're calling right now an English Learner International Center. The name is still not in concrete, okay? But the vision that we invite you to think about is the vision of this center is to empower English learners with lifelong learning skills anchored in Spanish and English biliteracy through quality education and innovation that celebrates and maximizes their unique potential in the United States and the Americas. The mission of such a center is to advance professional expertise in dual language teaching and learning. One of the things that I discovered, kind of like Kung Fu, walking the earth. I grew up here in West Texas, born in Van Horn, Texas, came to the community of El Paso, and started my journey as an educator. And then I walked the earth, went to different parts of the United States, and everywhere I went, I was seen as an expert, simply because of the work that I did here on the border. I knew more than some of the people in Idaho with regards to second language learners, than some of the people in North Carolina, and so on and so forth. And so one of the things that, when I came back to El Paso, and speaking to my colleagues is, I think that El Paso is a leader. This binational borderland community can lead both the U.S. and the Americas in terms of really shaping best practices for dual language learning. We have a lot of experiences here that are rich. I mean, just across the border, I mentioned a while ago, we have fellow colleagues who have a growing number of English-speaking kids. And they have minimal strategies for engaging them. We have something to offer there. And vice versa. I hear through the grapevine that a lot of our kids that come from Mexico are really good in math. So what are they doing in Mexico that maybe we can learn from, right? How can we together prepare them for college and career? What about dual credit through Tec de Monterrey, for example? What about those newcomers that come to us, speaking fluent Spanish in high school? Couldn't they take some dual credit courses through Tec de Monterrey that might be eventually recognized? I don't know. Those are just questions that I had in terms of the possibilities that we can explore together as a state, as a community. So, before
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
Can I ask it?
Yes, please.
Okay, I wanted to ask Dr. Serrata with the whole panel. I used to teach remedial reading classes at EPCC. The majority of my students were L's. And Dr. Kennedy brought up a good point. When I talked to them about their experience in high school, they felt invisible and they were too shy to ask for help. So, I mean, obviously dual language in the secondary schools I think will be powerful, but I just wanted to ask, what else can our high schools do to make sure our ELs get to college and have a fighting chance?
Great question.
Yeah, it is a great question. So I think Senator Rodriguez hit on some of this earlier with regards to the funding. So the funding cuts that he spoke to with regards to K through 12, and Senator, we both know your fight, and unfortunately the Texas Supreme Court punted on that by saying that Texas's funding mechanism, while constitutional, was still a mess. And there's been no action to carry it forward and address it. We see the same cuts in higher education. So when you taught remedial reading, what we see now from the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board is a real emphasis to minimize that. We had a very robust ELL program that was very well. It was 36 hours, and we had marked fantastic results with these students. And the state came in and said, we're not going to fund it anymore. And so we had to cut that program down and continue to reduce that program. Now the coordinating board is saying that by this fall, 25% of all remedial courses have to be done in a co-requisite model. They're looking at integrated reading and writing, which I don't necessarily disagree with, but by next fall, it's going to be 50%, and by fall of 2020, 75%. And so what you're seeing is a disinvestment in these kinds of programs. And so what high schools can do is just continue. We see a stronger and stronger student. I told the superintendents this. And part of it was this region and South Texas region. You're in my hometown, Brownsville. They were the only two regions in the state that pushed back and were adamantly against HB5 because we understand the history of tracking in our communities, West Texas and South Texas. And so what the superintendents did, and I applaud them, they all defaulted to the most rigorous program for all kids, for all students, and that's vitally important because that is what prepares them for college, whether they're an EL student or not. That is what will continue to prepare them, and so by doing that, we continue to see a stronger and stronger student. Dual credit is another one, and by the way, if you take dual credit at Tech, it's going to transfer. They're accredited by SAS. So they are absolutely, it'll go to any institution in the United States. They have the highest, they're the MIT of medical. I mean, so we recognize them and their credits. So, but that's the best thing that we can do, is take advantage of those kinds of programs, continue to have high expectations for the students that we serve, and provide the support that they need.
Thank you so much.
I think what Senator or Representative Education, and she mentioned the dual language assessment, I think that's going to be very helpful because the kind of program or implementation that we're doing in elementary can, follow secondary. If they can be assessed in their Spanish while they're learning English, then they won't be seen as a failure because they know. It's not like they're stupid. We just came without speaking English. I learned English at 19. And believe me, I always talk a lot, I do. And for that while, I was silent. I would never raise my hand. I was, because I was embarrassed to say something wrong. Not that I didn't know the answer. I knew the answer, but I couldn't verbalize it. But then, when I started feeling a little bit better, then I became myself again. And, but that would be a solution, the dual language assessment. If they can be assessed in the middle school and in the high school?
What we're trying to do is all of the state required years, 3, 5, 8, 4, 7, the different, that's what we're talking about. The other half of that is we changed the rules to allow language learners, regardless of dual language, ESL, whatever the program is. When you successfully complete 5 years, you get your foreign language credit. So you can complete that starting in the elementary level. So no, it's no longer a failure because you're already completing high school credits in 3rd grade.
Wonderful. All right. So I know that we went over time with our panel. Please, let's give them a round of applause. Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing your insights and perspectives. They're much valued, and we look forward to having you all again at some point.